welcome to the Vandy Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Lee. Our guest today, well, he'll be a mystery guest. I will let him introduce himself in a moment. Our show is sponsored by the Well Coffee House, which is a Nashville area coffee house providing fresh roasted coffee along with house-made pastries, breakfast and lunch offerings. 5 locations to serve you in the Nashville area: Brentwood, Green Hills, downtown, Bellevue, and Cool Springs Lifeway. More information can be found at wellcoffeehouse.org. The Well Coffee House, where coffee changes lives. We also thank our co-sponsor, WellSpire, Nashville's Learning and Development Center, located in the Gulch. Our news is presented by Sutherland & Belk, a family-owned injury law firm. If you or a loved one has been hurt in any type of accident, call Taylor or Russell at 615-846-6200 to see what your rights are and if they can help. Well, a huge weekend for Vanderbilt baseball. The Commodores get an unexpected sweep over Florida in, frankly, a dominating fashion. Vanderbilt now 4-2 in the SEC. It will play Lipscomb on Tuesday in a huge series in Nashville with Tennessee coming up this weekend. Our guest line will be sponsored by Vanderbilt fan Josh Minton, an independent insurance agent operating out of Brentwood, looking for a one-stop shop to take care of your insurance needs. Josh has you covered. Call him today, 615-933-1979. Email him at josh@hqinsurance.com. Follow him on Twitter at Joshua Minton HQ or Facebook at facebook.com/JD Minton HQ. He's my insurance agent. Give him a try. Tell him you heard about it here. Well, I was astonished with what Vanderbilt did to Florida this weekend, but I don't know that that's the most astonishing thing of my weekend. I have a guest on our show today that I honestly don't know that I ever thought I would have on this podcast, and I'm pretty sure this guy never thought he would appear on a Vanderbilt show either. I will let our very distinguished guest introduce himself right here.
My name is Dave Serrano. I'm the former coach at the University of Tennessee. Previously, before that, I was the head coach at Cal State Fullerton, and before that at UC Irvine. Now working for Baseball America, covering college baseball, and I had the opportunity this weekend to meet Chris and cover which everyone thought was going to be a difference maker of a series between Vandy and Florida, and I was excited to be there and take in and talk about the series with Chris over this podcast.
Dave, I never in a million years thought that series would be that lopsided. Did you?
No, and, you informed me on some stuff. Obviously from afar, I always watch the series with the scores and all that. But never did I imagine that Florida had its way with Vandy since 2014 of winning the series. And this was the first series that Vandy won. But I thought there were some real big factors that went on in this series. And, everyone will walk away. It was a great sweep for Vandy, a tough series for the Gators, sets the Gators back to 1-5. It now gets Vanderbilt to 4-2, a respectable number to be after 2 weekends. But to me, Chris, the 3 big things that happened in this series started on Thursday night. I thought the way Drake Fellows set the tone for that team with his performance. And again, I saw Vandy in the tournament, the MLB tournament out in Arizona to start the season. And I didn't think Drake pitched very well that day. Not for a typical Vandy number 1 starter, but he sure has come a long ways, and I sure thought he set the tone on Thursday night. And then I thought the other thing that was big in the series was the inning that Ravy struggled on Friday in Game 2, where he had walked 4 guys in 1 inning. Florida never plated a runner across the plate, and the big at-bat was when he got Nelson Maldonado out with bases loaded, and then to their next at bat, Vandy put a 6 on the board, and by that time the game was basically out of reach with how much Florida wasn't handling the bat very well. And then to take it to Saturday, in the final game, I kind of thought both teams were kind of feeling each other out. It was kind of a low energy atmosphere. Florida jumped out to a 2-0 lead. Kumar was throwing the ball well, but I thought Florida was taking as good as swings that I had seen off of any of the pitchers that they had seen previously in the series. And at the end of the 3rd inning, after a strikeout and I believe it was Infante he struck out. There was a gesture, some kind of gesture. I didn't really see it, but Tyler Dyson made some kind of gesture, emotional gesture, that really fired up the Florida dugout, and I think it upset the Vandy dugout. And then to lead to the next inning, Cooper Davis led off the inning and laid down a great bunt down the third baseline that just rolled foul. And as Tyler Dyson ran over and picked it up when it went out of foul territory, he gloved it with his glove and flicked it towards the Vanderbilt dugout and hit the netting above the dugout, which really woke up any kind of sleeping giant that was going on over in that dugout. And it brought a lot of emotion to the Vanderbilt side. And on the very next pitch, Cooper Davis lays down the same type of bunt, which stays fair this time. And Tyler Dyson and the third baseman collided, and he threw the ball down the right field line. And I thought that set the tone. Next thing you know, it's bases loaded. Next thing you know, Steven Scott comes up and plates one. I believe it's Steven Scott, hits one over the right field fence to give Vandy a 4-2 lead, and they never looked back and went on to win 14-4, I believe.
Okay, what happened with the Harrison Ray incidents? I know that you and I were at the game on Saturday sitting next to each other, Friday, and I think Harrison got hit with the pitch late in the game. I was watching the SEC Network, but I kind of caught it late. I guess they were showing some video from something maybe that happened Friday night that maybe precipitated that. Then you had a Florida player that went in spikes up on Ray. They ended up calling a double play because of that and actually bringing a runner back who was going to score on that play. There were no outs before the double play. And then I think some jawing and stuff later. I was not there Saturday. What happened? What's the background on all that and what went on Saturday?
Well, the only thing I could see as a background on that, and I kind of mentioned this to you up in the press box as we were watching the game, is at one point in the game on Friday, I think the score was 8-0 Vandy, and they were on their way to the second game and winning the series. And Harrison Ray stole second base. And at that time, and I'm not, by no means am I making judgment on this. I know there's rules of the game that when you have a certain lead at a certain point in the game, you kind of pull back the horses a little bit. And 8-0 in game two, where it looked like Florida had even though Raby wasn't on his A game, it looked like Florida didn't have any shot. That's kind of towing the line a little bit. And I say that cautiously because I have all the respect in the world for Tim Corbin. I have all the respect in the world for the Vanderbilt baseball program. And sometimes things like that are done out of respect on who's on the other side of the field. They were playing Florida, and Florida's a good program. It's been a good program for many years. So sometimes leads aren't always safe, even when you feel like it could be safe. But I think that, Chris, had something to do with what led to the antics on Saturday and some, guys getting hit and some of the emotions that came out of in Saturday's game that neither one of us saw on Thursday and Friday, and maybe because they were both a little bit of lopsided scores.
Yeah, that's a good point. I do remember now that you mentioned that at the time. There was so much that happened in that game, and plus Harrison Ray's from Florida too, so there could be some background there. But let's talk about Vanderbilt's lineup, Dave. I mean, I don't know what you say. They scored, 34 runs over the weekend, which is phenomenal, or whatever it was. What did you take of them from what you saw?
Well, for me, it isn't about their lineup. I think their lineup from day one when I saw them in Arizona is as good of a lineup as I've seen in a while. They have a lot of left-handed hitters in it. They have a lot of very good hitters in it. Let's go back to Harrison Ray a little bit. I mentioned this to you up in the press box. I believe he adds an element to that lineup that was needed. I think when I saw them early on, they have a lot of bats in the lineup. My only concern was where was some of the athletic ability going to come from, the base stealing. I know Coach Corbin likes to have action on the bases. And I think Harrison not only solidifies their lineup with another good athlete, he's swinging the bat well. I know he hit the skids a little bit, but he plays a good defense at second base too. So I think he adds an element. Sometimes when you build a lineup, it isn't always about having the best 9 hitters in there all the time. sometimes it's about having the best 9 fits in the lineup. And I think Harrison really adds a different element, but their lineup is tough. It is tough. And, some of those guys are feeding off of each other. Ethan Paul had a great game and has continued to have a good season. I made the comment to you, he's hitting in the 7 hole for them. And, when you have a guy like Ethan Paul with his experience and the way he's swinging the bat, hitting in the 7th hole, you've got something really going well in that lineup. And I think, to me, it's about the pitching. It's about the pitching that's going to take Vanderbilt where they are accustomed to going and where they should be going with this team. I think it's going to be about the consistency of their pitching. They've got the arms, they've got the ability. It's going to just be about finding the right fits, especially coming out of the bullpen. I think the bullpen right now is probably the biggest question mark. They have good arms from what I've seen. It's been about the command of those arms, and they've got to throw the ball over the wide of the plate more times than not.
Well, I want to talk a lot about the pitching. I guess the first thing you mentioned, Drake Fellows, Kumar Rocker, Patrick Raby was great too. Now they are walking guys, and their bullpen is taking that to kind of a new level right now too. But the thing that stands out for me right now is their starters have been awfully tough to hit, Dave.
Well, I'll say this. I was amazed when I saw the stat of Patrick Raby that after, I think this was his 5th start, he's yet to give up an extra base hit, which means no double, no triples, no home runs. That is a stat that is truly amazing. In fact, I mentioned it last night. We had a talk, our typical top 25 talk with Baseball America, and I mentioned that in our talk. I'll talk about that today in our podcast with them. That is a pretty amazing stat that isn't being talked about very much. That 5 games in the season, I don't have the numbers in front of me on how many innings he's pitched this year, but that is truly remarkable in college baseball that after 5 starts that he has yet to give an extra base hit. But I also mentioned this to you in the press box the other day, Chris. I believe that with Drake Fellows, if he can solidify himself as that Friday guy and set the tone like he did this weekend, and this week it was on Thursday night, and Patrick Raby can continue to do what he does, and that's just be Mr. Consistent. He needs to cut down his walks, but you know what you're going to get out of Patrick. Even though he walked 6 guys with 7 strikeouts, he didn't give up any runs in Friday night's game. That sets the tone for the young, talented Kumar Rocker to make the 3rd start of the weekend. And I think I saw that on Saturday. He probably had his best start of the year in maybe the biggest environment playing Florida of the year. And I think that was set, the tone was set by what his other 2 starters did in game 1 and game 2. And I think it'll alleviate some of the pressure off of him and allow him to grow up to be the superstar that he is going to be.
Yeah, you called that. You said after they won that game in game 2, you said now all the pressure's off of him. I bet he will throw really well in game 3. That's exactly what happened.
Yeah, he was in command, and I really believe that on Saturday's game, and maybe it's because they were down 0-2 and they were down 0-2 the previous weekend and came out and beat Mississippi State. I'm talking about the Gators now, is they had the best swings that I had seen all weekend long off of Kumar. His stuff was good. I think he was flashing some 95s, 96s, showed a really good breaking ball, had good command, was pitching down and up in the zone. But Florida had some good swings on him and had good passes. But I think, again, I go back to the antics in the 3rd inning and the 4th inning, and those kind of emotions do go on in college baseball. I think once Vanderbilt took the lead 4-2 and continued to increase the lead, you saw a much more relaxed Kumar go out there and set the tone for his team to eventually lead to the sweep of the Florida Gators.
Dave, you have seen Patrick Raby pitch for a long time, all the way back to high school in Knoxville. His first 2 years at Vanderbilt were terrific. He made Team USA. Then last year he fell off. I mean, they had trouble getting him into the 4th inning of games, and I just remember the Auburn game where he got hit pretty hard, and we were all wondering, okay, what do they get? Because he's not a guy who's going to overpower people, but it seems to me like he's back to dominating with that elevated fastball. His breaking ball has been pretty good. Now, the control part is the thing that I don't get, because he came in as a control pitcher, and he still is having trouble with walks. I think he walked 6 in the game we saw. But what is your take on him? Is he kind of back to the same guy that we saw the first 2 years? What's changed? What's different?
Minus the command issues, he is back to the same guy. I give credit to whether it was him or Brownie, the pitching coach. I think he's really elevated his breaking pitch. I think it's more of an out pitch than it ever was in high school when he pitched here at Farragut High School, and I saw him pitch a lot. I think, he's always had command of up and down. He's a fly ball pitcher. He's up in the zone a lot. That's what he does. He's always had a pretty good feel for a changeup. For me, this isn't a crutch. I don't ever like making crutches. I just feel the young man last year probably went through some tired arm. I know his velocity dropped tremendously. You got to look back over his career, and I've seen his career for a long time. In high school, starting as a freshman, the young man has logged a lot of innings over his career. Now throw in summer ball, throw in Team USA, throw in the amount of innings he's thrown for Vanderbilt. The arm, I always say, only has so many bullets in it. And I just think what happened last year is he went through a tired arm stage. He had pitched the whole summer for Team USA. I don't know what his throwing was in the fall. Leading into his junior year, he had a good, very good numbers-wise summer with Team USA. I just think it was a case of him being a little tired, and which made his velo drop. And when you're up in the zone and your velo drops, that's usually something that's not good, where balls, instead of fly balls, and now fly balls that are going over the fence or going into the gap. But I think it's real important for him to continue to be that consistent guy on that Saturday for Vanderbilt because of his experience and his past success. And I think it's a completely different look from Drake Fellows to him. So I think it's a good mixture. And then you go to Kumar on Saturday, on the Sunday game, or game 3 usually. It's a good little, even though they're all right-handed, they're all different looks. And I think that bodes well for Vanderbilt.
Dave, I know Scott Brown is really well respected in business. I know that you respect him as well. But the command and control piece is just the part that continues to befuddle everyone with the arms that they have. I know that I think we were watching Jake Eater. You spotted something with his leg that you thought might be throwing off his control a little bit. You pick up on stuff that I will never pick up on in terms of mechanics and things that affect a pitcher's ability to control strikes. If you wanted to zero in on the places where they are struggling to throw strikes, what are the things that you saw there that were the root causes?
Well, by no means would I ever say I'm an expert. I've had plenty of success on one coast, and I struggled out here. So I don't know if I all of a sudden forgot how to coach baseball out when I came out here, but I do have an opinion on that. I believe, and I think this was part of our conversation, and very good conversations we had up there. Part of it might be the recruiting process a little bit. And, over the years, as Vanderbilt has bowed great pitching staffs, not just good arms, but strike throwers, they may be tending to attract good arms that aren't strike throwers. And I know over the course of my career, it's hard. It's difficult to take a guy who isn't a consistent strike thrower and make him a consistent strike thrower. And that might be part of it. I don't know. I have never been a big, huge mechanical guy. I like to adjust to the style of a lot of pitchers. So I never, over the course of my career, changed a lot of mechanics. I try to refine mechanics because, again, going back to what I just said, I never wanted to take style out of somebody. So I don't know if it's more mechanical or if it's more mental. And I think sometimes physical can lead to mental and mental can lead to physical. And I think being a strike thrower is almost being like a good free throw shooter. Okay. It's sometimes it's more mental than anything. The plate never moves. It's 60 feet, 6 inches every time you throw a pitch, just like the free throw line never moves and the basket never moves. But why are some real good at it and why are some struggle at it? That's the big mystery. And I think sometimes it's more of a mental thing. It could be mechanical at times. And, the age of pitching has changed a lot. There's a lot more video. There's a lot more beliefs in things of how you drive to the plate. And I do know, in doing a little bit of research, because Kumar kind of had the same kind of leg drive that Eater did when I saw Kumar on Saturday, and he didn't struggle as much with his command. And it's a different kind of philosophy that people have now. So I don't think there's a right or wrong answer to that. I just know that Brownie has a great track record of pitching, And if I had to lay money on it, I'd say that he's going to figure this out with his pitching staff. And once they do, with the offense that they bring to the table every day, Vanderbilt could be a scary team as we get farther into the season.
Dave, we talked a bit about the SEC. You feel that the West is a good bit ahead of the East. I would say that the results early certainly back that up. Is it fair to say you feel like the East is probably a two-team race between Georgia and Vanderbilt? Of course, Tennessee has also played exceptionally well. Just size things up from the big picture SEC perspective.
Well, in looking from what I've seen, and I've seen 4 of them play now, and I'm going to get to see Georgia, Kentucky this next weekend. From afar, Georgia looks really good. I think they have really good arms. In fact, it was funny on Saturday. I kind of sat in the stands a little bit around some scouts, and I heard that Georgia has the best pitching staff in the league. Then I heard Arkansas has the best pitching staff in the league. Then I heard Tennessee has a chance to have the best pitching staff in the league. So everyone has different opinions. For me, I think the South Carolina club is down from what they were in the past. And, it hasn't been – they've been down for a few years now, but I think they're more down than even when they were a little down. I think Kentucky's in for a rough year. Obviously, they're 0-6 now in conference. From the people, I'll get a chance to see them for the first time this weekend. It's a new team. I think Zach Thompson, their Friday night guy, gives them the best opportunity to win. After that, it's kind of a crapshoot. I think Tennessee's on the rise. I do that. I do think that. That isn't looking through rose-colored glasses. That isn't being biased. They have a very good core of juniors and seniors on the mound that have grown up. I think Frank Anderson has done a very good job with them, the new pitching coach there. They're a good team, and they got a good pitching staff. They got a lot of older teams. It's going to be an interesting weekend this weekend where it's good pitching and Vanderbilt will bring out, if they could do the same thing they did with their 3 starters, they'll match it with good pitching. But Vanderbilt, I give the big edge offensively against them. And Missouri, with all the allegations against them, even though they just won a big series against Ole Miss, I think Missouri, I heard they can really hit. Have not seen them yet. They've got some good arms. But they're kind of that dark horse there. It's a tough place to go play. I believe that series with Ole Miss was in Missouri. That's a tough place to go win at. And Missouri could be the spoiler of the East in regards to preventing someone from winning the East, depending on and maybe winning the West. They just put a big ding into Ole Miss by taking 2 or 3 from them. But I'd say Vandy and Georgia, for sure. Florida has a lot of making up to do now, and I have a lot of faith in Coach O'Sullivan. He's a great coach. It's a great program. They're young. I don't ever like using that as an excuse, but they have 2 kids on their roster that should be in high school this year that graduated early. They're young. They will get better. They have some concerns, though, for me. They don't have the elite pitching they usually have had. Those guys will get better. And I walked away not real impressed with their offense right now, and I'm not sure where their offense is going to come from as they continue to go through the rigors of SEC play. So I'd say that's a good choice, Vandy and Georgia. And I think the 3rd place seeding right now is up in the air. I'd throw Florida in that mix. I'd throw Tennessee in that mix. And I think those are the 2 teams that'll battle it out for at least the 3rd spot.
Well, Dave, I very much enjoyed getting to know you this weekend in the press box. Your analysis was great then. It's great now. I know that you do a lot of work at Baseball America. You do some radio stuff every now and then. Tell people where they can find your work.
Well, at baseballamerica.com, I'm part of their podcast on Mondays of our top 25. I'll periodically write articles. In fact, this week I'll be writing an article on Scott Strickland on how at Georgia, the head coach of Georgia, how he has grinded through some really tough years to get that Georgia program back into the mix of the SEC and the SEC East, as we talked about. They could find all my work at Baseball America, it's been a pleasure to be on. I hope the Vanderbilt fans know I come in peace. I competed against your program for 6 tough years, but I always looked across the diamond and always admired how Tim Corbett runs his program in a first-class manner, championship manner, and I've always had a lot of respect for the Vanderbilt program, and I wish you guys and your program nothing but the best of luck the rest of the season.
He is Dave Serrano with Baseball America. I'm Chris Lee, the host of the Vandy Sports Podcast. Thanks for listening. We've got more episodes coming later in the week.